This is Dr. Laura Conover, and today I'm so excited to share with you a healing tool that's going to really transform your experience with grounding. Everywhere we go, we have electromagnetic fields, EMFs.
Welcome to Real Rover.
The way our body
I'm your roving host, John Craig. リアルローバーへようこそ。クレイグ・ジョンでございます。Introducing you to people you would never have heard of if it wasn't for Real Rover. Here we go.
Because of that, we're very, very open to healing modalities that support that and support our health in that unique pathway.
Our guest today, for the second time, is Dr. Laura Conover, otherwise known as the intuition physician, who's been very active teaching and literally proclaiming the good news about grounding. And so today we're going to speak about an issue that many people may not be aware of unless they have actually felt it in their own bodies. And that's the issue called electro-sensitivity. So let's go straight into it. Laura, what is it?
Well, exactly like what you said. It's if you don't experience it, then people think it's in your head. And the medical profession, only now just a little bit in more progressive countries, is starting to accept that that's a legitimate diagnostic term, electrohypersensitivity. Sometimes if you're like on the internet, you see EHS, that's what some people are referring to. And in other countries, not in America though, there's diagnostic criteria and treatment for it. That's even covered by healthcare. So it's just, just depends where you are. But it's when people are exquisite. Well, we're all conductive, so we're all sensitive to any kind of electro smog in our environment, right? But some people can feel it. So they can literally get sick when they're around cell towers, or if they're working, on their computer all day, or if they're in a particularly, e-smog, I call it, area, or, a new cell tower goes up and then all of a sudden they don't realize why they don't feel good. And then they realize, and then another subset of people, and I hope your listeners already know what grounding is, because the premise is sort of that they already know that grounding is a healing modality where you touch the earth. And some people do that indoors, and they use the ground prong of their outlet to connect to the grounding system of their home and get grounded. And so there's a subset of people who, if they're already electro-hypersensitive, when they actually ground, they feel the electrical environment around them even more acutely, and they feel sick. So electro-hypersensitivity is someone who, whether they're grounded or not, can feel in their body when there's radiation and the impact of that radiation. And most people don't feel it. But there's some people that they literally know. When I am walking by a smart meter, I literally feel it or hear it or tingling and all that kind of stuff. But since I am a physician that works with grounding, I'm particularly concerned about when people ground, what that means when they're in an electrically smog, dense environment, and how I can protect them, because I think I want to preserve the healing modality of grounding because it's super powerful, right? So we don't want to just because you're electro-hypersensitive, don't want to say, okay, then don't ground and then just hide in a barricade with tinfoil everywhere. You can't, you have to offer solutions. So I bet there's a lot of people watching this who are electro-hypersensitive and don't realize it. There's like, why do I get a headache every day? Or I wake up and I feel worse than when I went to sleep. And it's because they've got their router, in their bedroom, that kind of thing. And they just don't even realize it. So it's a great topic to talk about today.
I had, I was showing a video of one of your lectures on YouTube to a class in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. And we broached on a few subjects. One of the women said that she came to grounding because one day she put her head outside the window of her Tokyo apartment and for the first time realized there was a cell tower right outside. Mm-hmm. She'd been feeling miserable for years. She'd gone to every kind of healer and practitioner. Mm-hmm. And it was only after she read about grounding in Japanese that she thought maybe that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So she came, she realized that was the cause of her ailments. Mm-hmm. And she actually sold her house and moved.
Yeah, no, that's great. Number one solution, remove the source as much as possible. Absolutely.
That's but great. At that time, we didn't have the knowledge that you have now about how you can be earthed or grounded, mm-hmm. but still have the bad effects of the electromagnetic frequencies. Is it right to call it dirty electricity? Some people call it that. Is that the same thing?
I think when people are talking about dirty electricity, I think for grounding, it's sort of the same thing, because when they're talking about dirty electricity, they're talking about when you ground indoors, which is totally different than grounding outside. So when you ground indoors, then you're then exposed, and then you touch a conductive surface, you are now exposing your body to the AC current, the artificial AC current of the wiring. And so if you're calling that dirty electricity, yes. But it's a little bit different than grounding outside, where you're not necessarily talking about the load of the AC current that's in your home. You're directly touching the earth, but then you're still exposed to radiation. So grounding in and of itself doesn't shield you. It doesn't mean that the radiation and, you know, the cell phone there and the router there and the tower over there and the Wi-Fi from 6 neighbors, it doesn't make that disappear. So I don't know if you want to call that dirty electricity. When I say dirty electricity, I more mean from the cord literally running through wiring. So
yeah, the reason I'm asking is because such confusion exists in a lot of people's minds. What's the difference between dirty electricity and what you've already described as EMF, right?
Right.
Not exactly the same thing. So this woman in Tokyo who was being bombarded every day, without her knowing, and nobody else in the house suffered, nobody else probably in the area suffered, she was reduced to a wreck. So from a medical point of view, what's different here between her body and everybody else's body before we go any further? How?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is like if you could really know the true answer to that, then you would solve like almost every disease. Because why, if someone has the same genetic, they're twins, and then one comes down with cancer? Or why does someone get migraines and someone doesn't? Or why does someone have fibromyalgia or insomnia? You know what I mean? And we're all living in the same house. So I don't know if I have an answer for why, but I do know the fact is that some people are like the canary in the coal mine. They can feel it first, and then some people seem to not. But what I know on a microscopic cellular level is that our cells are all affected. It's just, can you feel it or not? And there's a huge variation. And you know that even in the positive world of just grounding outside, there's some people that can feel the energy. They literally feel the relief. Their headache literally goes away. And some people don't feel it at all. But if I took lab values for each of them, if I hook their brain up to an EEG or their heart up to an EKG, I can tell the healing benefit is going through both people's bodies, because both are conductive and both are touching the earth and both are grounded. So do you feel it or not? It's not really telling you the health benefits. I don't necessarily think that the people who are electro-hypersensitive are actually getting sicker necessarily in the sense of long-term, will they have higher rates of cancer than someone who doesn't feel it? I don't know. I think we're all vulnerable, whether you feel it or not, whether you're sensitive enough or not. I think it's affecting all of us, but definitely for sure, for some people, they literally can feel it, hear it, get headaches from it instantly, like feel warmth, prickliness. Some people are really that sensitive, but I think it's affecting all of us equally. I don't think it's affecting them worse. I just think they can feel it.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's very important point. So, so that people may not get confused, it is obviously better to practice grounding for your general health and well-being, for your immune system. You'll be more resilient, let's say, if you're a grounded human vis-a-vis the electromagnetic pollution that's around you. But conversely, if you ground through an earth outlet in your house, you are electrosensitive, hypersensitive, EHS we'll call it, then it's probably better not for you to ground? Does it mean that?
No, and that's a fantastic point, because I think the medical literature, and now we have about 20 years of that, is really clear that whether you feel it or not, and whether you're electro-hypersensitive or not, grounding is actually healing. So I'd love to go into the pitfalls of opening ourselves up to this dirty electricity and why people get sick. But I still think, even with that entire discussion, that it's pretty clear in the medical literature that the body would prefer to be grounded, even with the crap around us, even with processing this dirty electricity. Still, inflammation goes down, your blood markers of inflammation go down, still your cortisol normalizes, still sleep generally for most people is deeper and more restorative, still your blood sugar stabilized, still your bones are more protective. So no, that's the thing, is this is why we need to address it instead of ignore it, is that feeling electrohypersensitive and feeling sicker when you ground will make most people in those conditions stop grounding. And I think that's reasonable because they feel like crap. But I don't want that. So I want to offer a solution because I know that grounding is the natural state of the human body, and that our human bodies, I think it's fair to say, to have ultimate longevity and wellness, you want to be grounded your entire lifespan, at least a little part every day. So I don't want people who feel toxic from grounding to stop. So that's where, okay, now we're in this little niche of people who they can feel that something's going on and they don't feel good, so they're not going to ground anymore. Now they're going to live in an ungrounded state, and I think that's worse.
Okay.
So even using a standard ground cord where you are opening up your body to connecting to dirty electricity, because all of the medical studies, let me just be really clear, all of the medical studies in the past 20 years has used a standard ground cord, which means, and they're in like electrosmog dense, hospital situations, suburban settings, urban settings. So all the medical studies and all the positive benefits have been shown through a standard cord where they are grounded, but plus their body is processing this artificial AC current the whole time. So there are still positive health benefits to being grounded. And that's why my message is don't stop grounding. Let's just find a new solution to protect those who are electrohypersensitive.
When did you become aware of this issue?
Because I first started with, my main love is just touch the earth outside. I'm not even into products really. I just want people to touch the earth outside. But the longer my medical practice went on, the more I realized that's very not fair and limiting to people who have mobility, issues, people who are recovering, people who are inside, people who are elderly, people who don't have as much access, people in urban settings. So we need to have something, because a lot of times the more sick you are, the more you need grounding. And that's the less likely, because I think it's really kind of not fair to be like, go out and take a hike. There's people that are so ill and so exhausted or so depressed. That's like telling them to go, paint the Mona Lisa. It's not a practical solution. So then I started being more open to, okay, so for my sicker patients, I need to have an indoor solution. And also for people who want to ground longer. Like if you're laying in bed for 7-8 hours, you might as well be grounded and healing for 7 or 8 hours, right? So I opened up reluctantly to products. But then what happened is I started immediately getting the feedback that a small percentage, I'd say 1%. So out of 100 people who are grounding inside, maybe one just says, I feel like crap. I'm anxious. My heart's pounding. My pain's worse. What's going on? That's when I started realizing, okay, so there's something else that some people are more sensitive to feeling that's going on when you ground indoors. And then we need a solution to that. So I partnered with an electrical engineer who got his doctorate degree, his PhD from MIT. And I said, because I'm a doctor, I'm a physician, so do no harm. And I know for some people, introducing AC current to the human body is probably not, it's not natural, it's not healthy. But those people still, I can't say, well, stop grounding indoors and just go outside, because the whole reason they're grounding indoors is it's not super accessible for them to go outside. So we have to find an indoor solution that protects people from this freaking AC current that we're constantly, around. So unrealistic to say, go into a tent in the middle of nowhere off the grid and then, and that's where you'll heal. I mean, that's like a death sentence to most people. They're not going to be able to do it, and then they're going to feel lost. So I need an indoor solution that protects people while they're grounded. And that's what we came up with together. But that's how I discovered it, was just literally having a small percentage of people say, why do I feel worse? I read all these testimonials that people say, magically my pain's gone. The next day I felt like 20 years younger. But some people don't experience that. And what's the problem is that if you then do a Google search, what you read about on the internet from non-physicians and people who don't understand how the human body works is that it's a detox, a grounding detox. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
And the advice is, just do it for a minute, and then do it for 5 minutes, and then do it for 30 minutes. And eventually over time, your body will get used to having AC current run through it. And as a physician, that's not cool with me. Like, I can't say that to someone because I'm saying do no harm. I would probably rather them not ground at all than do that. Because are you sure you want to acclimate your body to having, 60 hertz of AC current just run constantly through it until you numb to that? Are you sure that? I don't feel like we have done it long enough that that's a good solution. So I don't believe in a grounding detox, and I'd love to go into more detail about what I think the grounding detox actually is, because I feel it's the human body processing that current. And I would love to give you some examples as to why. But
absolutely, let's hear some examples. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the problem is that you have the grounding movement led by non-physicians, which is fine, but it's led with a business mind frame, and that's fine too. It's a business, and just because something's a business doesn't mean it's not a wonderful breakthrough, but it's a business. And so when a non-physician person hears a customer say, "I feel tingles, my heart's pounding, and I feel anxious," they say, "Oh, you just need to acclimate to it." They don't understand. They say, given over time, you'll feel better. And most do, because either they're acclimating their body to now accept this current, and the human body is better and feels better grounded. So over time, it'll just reap the benefits of grounding, and eventually maybe the benefits of grounding will outweigh the initial insult of the AC current going through the body. So ultimately over time, they may feel better, but they're still getting electricity going in that we shouldn't have running through our body. And the other thing is most grounding products are made out of silver. It takes one touch, one little droplet of your own natural skin oils to start degrading that silver. So another thing I think that's happening is over time, their product is becoming less effective. And so magically a month later, oh my gosh, all those symptoms went away. We'll test and see if you're still actually even grounded, because if you wash a product that's only made out of silver once, half the time it doesn't work anymore. If you use a product and you just even the label on the product says normal use, skin oils and washing and body lotions and stuff will degrade silver over time. So I feel like you're either becoming ungrounded and that's why those symptoms are going away, or sadly, and even worse, your body is getting used to running current through it. And so here's what the symptoms of what they would say is a detox is. Tingling. So if you're listening to this and you ground and you experience this, I don't believe it's a detox. I believe you're sensing the electricity running through the cord. So tingling in your skin, worsening pain, anxiety, your heart racing, feeling sick, irritability, and worse sleep. Just generally feeling worse, headaches sometimes, that kind of thing. Okay, so the non-medical say this is just a detox reaction. So I dove into that because I'm not going to recommend something that I don't understand and that doesn't make sense to me. I don't believe in that. I believe every symptom in the human body is telling me something. So what is this telling me? So I spoke with a lot of people in the grounding movement. And what I heard was when you're grounded through a standard cord, and this is sort of like the secret of the grounding world, you hear that there's this magic Faraday cage that comes around you and protects you then, right, from the EMFs. Have you read that or heard that? That your body becomes...
No, I didn't hear about the magic Faraday
so they say that if you ground through a standard cord, EMFs is not an issue because there's a Faraday cage around you protecting you, and you're grounded. Well, you are grounded, that's true. But there's no magic Faraday cage that comes around you. What they're talking about, if you read the fine print, is they're talking about your body becomes a Faraday cage. They're saying, and I have emails where it's stated that they're using your skin, not even just your epidermis, the top layer, but your deeper conductive layer, the dermis underneath. They're using the dermis to mitigate this AC current that's coming into your body. So I'll just read, they say, the electrons and ions in the dermis reorganize themselves to cancel the external electric field. Okay, so I don't want my skin being what cancels the electric field around me, because I think when you're non-medical, you think, oh, your skin is this little casing and it's neutralizing things for you. They're not really saying that. They're saying the grounding is neutralizing it, but what they mean is your own body is doing the work of neutralizing it. And so you're fine. And I know that your body, your skin is your largest organ. It weighs the most. It's like 8 pounds of you, and it's 22 square feet of you. And your skin represents and protects every organ in your entire body. So it has nerve endings that go directly to your brain. That's why you feel tingling and pain. It has blood vessels running through your entire dermis and epidermis, capillaries, which bring, mast cells, macrophages, red blood cells, immune cells, goes right to your heart, circulates, goes to every other organ in your body. That's why you feel your pounding heart, That's why you feel sicker, flush. Some people get really hot. That's because you've got your circulatory system in your skin that they're saying this current's running into and is neutralizing the current for you. Okay, so now your brain's neutralizing the current for you, your dermis, your circulatory system, your lymphatic flow goes through your skin as well. There's more T cells in your skin than there is even in your blood. So you want the majority of your immune system now has this current running through it. So that's why you get sicker over time. Even muscles are represented. There's erector pili muscles that, make your goosebumps and stuff like that. So literally your brain, your circulatory heart, your lymphatic, your immune system, and your muscles, everything is represented by skin, everything. And that's why it's the largest organ on your body, and it's your protector. I don't want to use the biggest, largest organ system of my entire body that connects to every other organ system in my entire body to neutralize a current running through it. That's why that's the detox. And whether you acclimate to it over time and lose your sensitivity to it, or whether your grounding product stops working and you stop being grounded so you feel better, that is not cool with me. That's, as a physician, it's do no harm until we know that your skin can handle that. Oh, and that's the second point. Even the people who say you make a magical Faraday cage around you and it doesn't hurt you, admit that over 100 kilohertz, it's no longer effective. It's another email I got that says, when the body becomes grounded, it becomes a good Faraday cage for frequencies up to about 100 kilohertz. Above that frequency, the efficacy of the shielding decreases as the frequency increases because the ions in the dermis cannot respond fast enough. So here is admitting that your own body, there's a threshold where your own body cannot even neutralize, above 100 kilohertz. Well, Ihan, guess what is above 100 kilohertz? Pretty much everything. Radio waves, navigation systems, GPS, Wi-Fi, cell phone. Certainly the whole 5G is going into the megahertz, way past kilohertz. So what are they even talking? So your skin cannot even keep up with modern technology. And so the whole problem comes down to that standard ground cord was invented decades ago now, before this was an issue, right? So decades ago, I totally agree. You could ground indoors. I mean, 20 years ago, I was a medical student and I had a pager, didn't have a cell phone, and I would get buzzed to help with a patient, and I would find a nurse station with a landline with the cord, the old fashioned, and I would call in and they would say, go to such and such a floor. I mean, that was 20 years ago. So now I'm on a wireless computer talking to you. I've got my cell phone over there in case someone needs me, and the smart meter over there and my router right over there. So it's not the same world it was. And even the people who think that grounding with a standard cord, your body can neutralize a certain amount, they're admitting that what we're living in now and what we're going to be stepping into soon and are stepping into, even the human body can't keep up with that. So now there's a subset, this many people, I said maybe 1 out of 100, it's going to start being this many people and this many people as the toxicity increases, that the human body, which I don't even want to be what's neutralizing it in the first place, but the human body, it just won't even be able to neutralize it. It's just too much. So then it becomes, do you just don't ground, or do you ground and get zapped, or what?
Okay, let's, for some of the newbies, let's help them to picture this. You're talking about a grounding cord, a traditional grounding cord, which is going into the third hole of your plug. Certainly in the United States, we don't have the same system here. Mm-hmm. But in fact, the original idea in this country that some of the people they thought they would make a lot of money with would be to use one of the 2 slits in the Japanese electrical system, because only one of those 2 slits creates an electrical flow. The other one, not at all. So they're saying you can put it in that one, right? And you will be grounded because the meter will go down to 0 when we check you. And so it's fine, right? So I took one of those sheets and I tested it in a hotel. I was used to being grounded with a grounded stake. Mm-hmm. That felt really good. I slept really well.
Yep.
So then I went into a hotel in Tokyo where they don't have the third hole.
Okay.
We can't easily use any kind of grounding equipment. I got up every single hour. There was something wrong. I just got up every hour. And it was clear that something, maybe it was an echo of the electrical flow on the other side. I don't know electrical systems well enough to say, but it was clear. My body was reacting. So we don't use that. We use the third one, which is earth. Now, for newbies, the earth in your electrical system doesn't conduct any electricity, right?
Right. It doesn't conduct electricity, but because it's a cord and a conductive system, it resonates with whatever is the electrical smog, radiation, EMFs in the atmosphere.
That's the key point. That's the key point, Laura, that people need to get. It resonates. It picks up on.
Yes.
In a sense, it kind of pulls it in, and then it gets into your body.
Yes.
It's not coming directly from the outlet because it's the earth port, well named.
Right.
It's coming because it attracts those frequencies to it through the way it's made. Is that how it works?
Right. And your home is pulsing with this artificial AC current. Most things run on this AC current about 60 hertz. And when you ground, you're now exposing your body to that AC current. And I love that you brought up the meter experiment where you see the meter go down and so you think you're grounded. That is also a trick that is not really, I've never heard anyone discuss it, but so I want to explain it here. Your natural electricity and the natural current of the earth is a DC current. So if you really want to measure that you're grounded, what you need to do is have a multimeter that goes to DC and shows that that's now being, equilibrized or, equalized with the earth, right? The DC current. AC is the artificial. Now, people are showing that the AC current also decreases when you're grounded. That's not showing you're grounded because the DC current is what's showing you're grounded. What that's showing is that all the current you're exposed to, which is when you're not grounded and you see that high reading, that's what you're exposed to. Whatever's in your area, that's exactly what you're being exposed to. And when you ground and it drops, that means it's going into your body, and your body, your skin, is got to reorganize its ions like this to accommodate. So that's why it's dropping to zero, is because now you've introduced your body as the processor. To me, that is not okay. People who are components of just, this magical Faraday cage show that as an example of, look, you're protected. Your voltage is going to zero. Where they're talking about AC, so they're not really even showing grounding. And now they're saying we've opened your body up to this AC current and your body's absorbing it, and that's why it's going to zero. To me, that's not okay. We want to deal with the ambient electrical smog that we're in different ways. We want to remove what we can. We want to reduce what we can. We want to shield ourselves from the rest of it. And we don't want to introduce it directly to our body with a ground cord. We want to have a cord that has a block in it, which we do have now, that doesn't allow the AC current to go into your body. And
oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's going to cause consternation to a lot of people who thought that it was literally zero now, and so the body and the earth is at the same electrical potential because it's
it is on DC. But it is, if you check DC, but AC, that's not good.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, though. This is a critical problem, and it's going to come to the attention of people here sooner or later in Japan. I mean, I've heard some people say, no, there is a problem with that. And now I'm a bit clearer about exactly what that problem is.
Yeah, because you said it. You said the meter went to zero and I felt like crap and I woke up all night long. There you go. Because the meter went to zero, which means your body was responsible for processing that AC current all night long, and that doesn't feel good.
Okay. Well, in another sense, it shows that sensitivity has many different levels, because I'm not that sensitive normally to these frequencies, but that was so clear. I couldn't sleep. Okay, so the story so far is that grounding has made a lot of people feel better, especially in the United States, where it basically took off. And here in Japan, a lot of people report feeling better. So clearly, grounding the human body has enormous benefits, and you've been very much responsible as a doctor for communicating that to many people, all of the systems, the vascular, the muscular, the bones, the cells, all of it. Very clearly, the double-blinded studies are proving that grounding is good for us. However,
and even in the face of EMF, so all of that, and I stand behind that. Even in the even when you were hooked up and couldn't sleep and feeling that AC current, which your body's not used to processing it, and now it has to process it, and you could feel that. even then I would say being grounded was helping your adrenals, helping your, inflammation decrease, probably helping rebalance your metabolic processes and your hormones. So again, I still think it's a healing state, but I do think it's sort of like a toxic slap in the face to your body to have that AC current, which is not necessary.
Okay. So we've identified the culprit using traditional earthing cord systems. There is a severe problem that hasn't really been addressed until you came along recently with a new cord that you developed. And because you had developed that, you had something to use to compare it with the traditional one. I saw your video where it was obvious that the new cord had absolutely no noise associated with it. You actually recorded it, the sound of it, whereas the traditional cord was definitely noisy.
Yeah.
So tell us how these are different, how a traditional cord and the one that you're using now is different.
Okay, so a traditional cord is just a conductive wire that has usually a resistor in the line for safety that doesn't really come into play unless there's an electrical surge or lightning strike, and then that would short out so that no electricity would go up the line. So that's just a safety feature. But other than that, it's basically a conductive cord that goes to whatever conductive tool you're using, whether it's a patch or a sheet or whatever, and then you're grounded basically through that conductive cord, hopefully directly through your home's wiring or your office's wiring and to the earth. So that's great. So it's an unfiltered direct connection to the earth, which is awesome, especially it's awesome if you're in the middle of nowhere, right? And that's why I like just grounding outside. That's number one. But when you're indoors, you are then resonant with everything that's going on in that room you're in and that building you're in and the external environment around your building, whether that's towers and hotspots and whatever. So then there's a cord that I call the pure ground cord that is the same ground connection. It allows your DC energy to become equal and neutral with the earth, grounding you, but it has a filter in there that will completely block AC current from coming up. Well, it can't completely block, but it blocks, the vast majority of AC current coming up. So it's a one-way valve. I'm going to connect to the earth. Electrons can still flow up and wash through me. All the same benefits in all the medical studies because I'm grounded, but it's stopping the AC current from going up. So when you're testing AC current, and here's the trick of showing a standard cord, and they say, standard cord, look, it goes to 0. And they're not saying it's because your skin and your entire body is now absorbing it. I see that and I say, that's gross because I don't want my body now being open to that. When you use our cord and then people test it and they didn't understand the trick of it and they're testing it on AC, they're saying, mine didn't change. Yeah, thank God, because you're not connected. We're not allowing that AC current to have any kind of, you're going to have to shield in other ways, and you're only purely grounded, which is why it's called the pure ground cord. And if you switch it to DC, you'll see that your current completely becomes neutral like the earth. But it's just a one-way filter that will not allow the AC electricity to then come and make your body do the double duty of neutralizing and processing that for you when it can't even anyway, because your body is now trying to keep up with neutralizing and processing anything that's under 100 kilohertz. But there's so much that's above that your body can't even keep up with. So now your body is just like, you've just added insult to injury, a small amount on a huge healing platform of grounding, but we don't really need that. And most people can handle that. But why would you want to, A? And then B, there's a lot of people who feel that. And so we just have an option for people who are electro-hypersensitive, who really can feel that and who wouldn't otherwise ground. I don't want you to stop grounding because I really believe even in the presence of EMFs, grounding is one of the things that makes us resilient. There's a lot of different ways to be resilient to this toxic world, but grounding is definitely one of the mainstays of it. So I don't want people to stop grounding, which is why for people who feel worse, get the cord that has the thing that blocks that AC current and won't make your body have to be what neutralizes it. And then what you're going to have to do is the separate step of shielding yourself as much as possible from the environment around you, because the cord will block it. And the cord also has shielding all the way up so that it can't resonate and pick up on anything so it's really truly a pure ground, which is awesome. But that doesn't remove it from the air. It doesn't remove it from it's removing it from what would travel up the cord only. So that's why if you test your body with the AC, you'll still see that you're being affected. So that's maybe a whole nother interview, but then you talk about dealing with shielding from EMFs in a different direction. But at least you're not introducing a direct current to your body through a ground cord. At least there's that.
Okay, so it's an important advancement in the methodology of how we ground our bodies. You've always been very much in favor of natural grounding, outdoors in nature. It's not completely without that kind of energy, especially if you're in a city, if you're in a park in a city. There's still the potential of picking up on that. True. But in your experience, like you said, if you can sleep all night grounded, surely it's better to do that, because unless you're sleeping on the grass, you're not going to be grounded. So
right.
You need to have some equipment, and I'm pretty sure you must do that yourself. You use grounding equipment yourself, presumably.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and with the pure ground cord.
And you're saying that the cord can be the best possible alternative for us, even though it's not perfect. We can't cut out electromagnetic smog perfectly. Yeah. Possible, but it's the best way to do it that we have at present. How long has it been in existence?
Since about December of last year. So okay. It's relatively new.
What kind of feedback are you getting?
From the people who are electro hypersensitive, it's thank God, because I couldn't ground and now I can ground again. Thank you. And then for people who didn't feel it, it's neutral because it's just a ground cord. So it can affect the ground cord like anything else.
If you're not electrosensitive, you're not going to know the difference.
Right.
Having this knowledge now, I mean, the genie's out of the bottle. Having this knowledge now, why would you go and purchase a normal grounding cord, even if you're not electrosensitive, when you know that this one will do a much better job because it's a pure ground? It's a no-brainer. So it seems to me that you should be getting more and more attention around this. I mean, have you got attention? Are people realizing what's going on?
Well, that might be a topic for a whole other interview, but grounding is unfortunately sort of a monopoly at this point, and it's very hard for the small business. Like, for example, I'm sure there's other small business owners like myself who have really great quality grounding tools and who want to go on the market and who then instantly get served legal papers, as I did. Can't sell this product, can't use the term earthing, just it's basically a monopoly. And unless you have a lot of money to sink into legal defense, and it's just not worth it. And so I unfortunately know many companies who just stopped. They just closed their doors. And so I'm persisting, and the reason I'm persisting is because, to me, even if you weren't, say you're not electro hypersensitive, you could care less. The standard cord's cheaper because it's just a cord. You don't have to put a filter. You don't have to shield it, nothing. So it's cheaper. So there's that for sure. And it works for most people. It works for everybody, let's face it, but just some people don't feel good doing it. But grounding works. Flat out, it works. I'm not attacking standard grounding. I 100% still, all of my products come default with the standard ground cord because most people do great on it. But now, just taking a step back and going just to the products themselves, if the whole point is that it's healthy to touch the earth, and we know we depend on the earth for our physical body and our existence here, and everything from breathing to drinking to eating and to like physically having a place depends on the earth. Why am I going to use a product that's super toxic to the earth? It's so rude. So my products are made out of organic hemp, organic cotton, stainless steel that will last a long time so that you don't have to buy 20 sheets because they stop working every couple months. You can buy one and use it for a decade. It degrades because it's natural fibers and made in the USA. For example, even just the cords, even if you just wanted a standard cord, my standard cord and my pure ground cord are both manufactured here in the United States. The monopoly of grounding as it stands is done overseas in huge, factories. And then just the transportation cost alone is so not eco-friendly. It's so toxic, just international transportation instead of just making something locally and then having something hand sewn out of eco-friendly materials. And then using, even my tissue paper is printed on recycled paper with eco-friendly inks. That is not going to hurt the earth and it's not going to hurt you. But every other grounding tool in this monopoly is crappy fiber, which means you're going to have, silver fibers, which means you're going to have to buy a ton of it and it's going to sit in a landfill because it's on polyester. Cords and other products that are made and shipped internationally, and just that alone, the pollution from just the shipping is like the worst that's like the hugest chunk of the puzzle of what we're doing to the earth. It's just transportation. And then on top of that, some of the other products, the newer ones are vinyl, leatherette, which just means plastic, which means it's going to sit in the landfill for 500 years, right? So how are you thanking the earth when you're sitting on plastic with a cord that was shipped around the world just so, because it was cheaper over there, and you're going to use it for a little bit and then throw it in the trash can? Like, to me, no, that, like, what are we doing with the message of earthing? What are we doing? Like, really, what are we doing? So think about what you're doing. You want to connect with the earth. You want to use natural materials. You want to use materials that will last a long time so you can consume less. And you hopefully want to get it by a company that's local. Unfortunately, since it's such a monopoly, all the tiny local companies like mine, it's very hard to find. You know, we're buried in the internet under the huge one umbrella of the monopoly, and guaranteed every single small business owner I know has gotten legal papers saying cease and desist doing this. So it's a fight. It's a fight. And so, yeah, of course, the pure ground cord is the only one. And you would think that any grounding company would be very interested in having this option for, even if you just think it's 1 out of 1,000 people that have trouble grounding, you would want that, because that's how, and I think that comes back to what we said at the beginning, that the grounding movement is not being run by physicians or medical care professionals, it's being run by businessmen. Because in healthcare, I'm really used to advancements, and it's awesome. It's collaborative. Someone develops a new surgical technique, a new way to suture a laceration closed. Everybody wants to know it because it has a better cosmetic result. It requires less anesthesia. It's less harmful to the patient. So you try that out and you spread it. That's why there's huge amounts of medical literature. And even to maintain my licensure, I'm required to keep up on all the medical literature in all the different disciplines. You know, even things I don't even see or deal with, I read about so that I have the knowledge, and so we can share and be collaborative. And then patients have options. When you're running it like a business, you don't care if the patient has an option. You just want to make money. So to me, that's what I don't understand. If this is even just a small, even if you think the body is its own Faraday cage, and I don't see what the problem is with that, don't you want your customers to have options? Don't you want to help promote the fact that there's don't you want to look into it? Don't you want to see if this is something that would be healthier in the long run, until at least we know what this AC current is doing to our tissues? Don't you want to at least do no harm? And so far, it's no, I don't. I want to stick with the standard cord that I developed before there was all this Wi-Fi, before there was all these cell phones, and I'm just sticking with that. And I want to silence basically any forward progress in any other way. And so to me, it's very frustrating to be in this business. So I very much appreciate this platform to be able to speak about, because I've never heard anyone ever explain, there's no magic Faraday cage. He's talking about your skin, your connective tissue, your brain, your heart, your circulatory system, your lymphatic system, and your immune system, running that current through it to neutralize it. That's what he means. That's not cool. And, you know, just to really explain why some people really feel that even when most don't. And then to take a step back and say the bottom line is, even with all that going on, still grounding is good. Still grounding is healthy. Still grounding is healing. Just shouldn't be limited. Shouldn't be bullying. Shouldn't be monopoly. Should be expansion. That's what I think.
Well, what you're talking about is kind of a fractal example of how the whole planet is being run right now. Where we're talking about the environment, we're talking about the need to do certain things, especially now. I mean, Richard Attenborough, you know, a fellow countryman of mine who I grew up watching, talking about the earth and her animals, he gave a most impassioned speech to, you know, members of the royal family and a whole crowd of people, releasing his new film. About planet Earth. And, you know, he's now probably 90, and he used to be the head of the BBC. He knows how to communicate. He knows you can't bash people on the head and say, stop your CO2 emissions. He knows that's not going to work. So he tries to do it through education, and by showing people how gorgeous, even now it still is, but by adding the caveat, we have got maybe 20 years if we carry on like this. And I think thanks to the fact that Netflix put out his new series of films about planet Earth, probably a third of humanity will end up seeing it. And because of that, surely the penny is going to drop that such a serious commentator for half a century saying 20 years, kids, that's how long you got, 20 years.
Yeah.
And so your message is coming at a very opportune time when, you know, a 16-year-old Swedish girl is waking up the whole of Europe about climate change, not politicians, not people with money, not bureaucrats. A 16-year-old school kid, for Christ's sake, is making this happen, and female to boot, saying, you know, the mother's in trouble here. So what you're facing is very typical of this particular time in history. And meanwhile, we've got this whole idea of putting up 5G platforms. Already the canaries are starting to sing, but I don't see anybody stopping the construction of them coming along anytime soon, because there's so much money in them. Just give me your view of how bad 5G is.
Well, you know, my platform is for sure positive solutions. So I don't want to be, because there's so many people, especially in holistic health, that it's fear-based, like drink this apple juice and you're going to have lead poisoning, you know. So basically underneath, buy my product because this vitamin will save you, you know. And so I don't want to be like, I don't want to talk about how hideous it could become and is becoming, because I really want people to feel better after they interact with me, read an article, watch a video. I just want them to feel better. That's like my role as a physician. So it's not good. I mean, I have written blog posts about, you know, what we know that radiation does. I mean, there's very clear evidence, medical evidence of what it does to all of our human tissues. I mean, even just holding your cell phone 3 minutes and your heart responds differently in 3 minutes. So, I mean, we know, and direct contact has a direct effect. And the whole reason we know that is because our entire body is conductive and electrical. Like every cell in our body is conductive. Even things you wouldn't think is conductive, like bone or connective tissue, or because obviously everybody knows the brain is an electrical impulse and the heart beats with an electrical impulse, but everything is conductive, which is why grounding works, because you can touch the earth with one tiny cell of your pinky. Your entire body is grounded because it's all connected and it's all conductive. So there's no isolating one part and it's not reaching one part. You could have something that's walled off with pure scar tissue. The scar tissue itself is conductive. So now you're grounding the place you want to ground most, that maybe a drug can't reach because there's no good blood flow. It's got so much inflammation. It's no other therapy can really reach it because it's just so scarred up. But grounding can, because even the scar tissue is conductive. So we're super conductive. As a result, I don't even want to guess. I'll just tell you this. I'm scared for my kids. My kids have a shielding blanket, but they're still on their computer because that's how they have to submit their school assignments. And I want them to carry a cell phone because I want to make sure when they're new drivers, you know, they're teenagers. So I want to make sure they get somewhere at the same. So, you know, I don't even want to project what the worst case scenario, but so the best case scenario is to boost your own resiliency. So to turn it into a positive. Are there things we can do to be resilient to whatever the government, corporations, monopolies throw at us? Yes. Let's focus on what we can do, because I ain't going to be up all night worrying about what I can't do. So what you can do is you can ground. That boosts your resiliency. You can try and get really restorative sleep, because sleep is absolutely crucial. You can take antioxidants and vitamin D to make your whole body as an organism more resilient, and minerals and good hydration that makes you conductive and healthy and flowing. And, you know, grounding is a huge part of that. And and then shielding. I think we have to become more aware of shielding. I don't think we can no longer stick our head in the sand and say grounding magically protects everything. Ground for your resiliency, but I do think we're going to start having to add this layer of awareness about shielding from our environment, at least while we're home. I mean, you can't walk around with you could wear a stainless steel hazmat suit if you want to, but at least when you're home in your little bedroom, we're going to have to start making, like, shielding paints a lot cheaper, because right now it's super expensive. We're going to have to start making shielding bedding a lot cheaper. Right now I make that, but it is expensive, because right now that's just what it costs. And of course I have all my products handmade right here in the United States with artists that sew each one individually. So it's freaking expensive. That's the reality. So hopefully over time, as we become more aware, those kind of shielding solutions also become less expensive. But yeah, it's not a good picture. And we know there was a huge study that was just released on the effects of cell phone radiation. And we know even just that, which is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think that was only studying like 3G and 4G. It wasn't even studying 5G. And that was bad. It was not good.
Wow. So you're sounding alarms here on many fronts, Laura, which is necessary. It's also difficult. It's challenging, and it must be very frustrating. What you said about a lot of the small companies going out of business is deeply disturbing.
Yes.
The same thing happens here. I think it's totally global. It's a takeover of every industry by ever larger conglomerates. But there is good news, and the good news is a lot of people are becoming more aware of where the real cause of their discomfort comes from and what principal things. I mean, I'll just give a little bit of a plug for your book here, which I know you're writing. And I've pretty much got through all of it, and you've delineated all of the areas of the body that will be positively impacted through grounding, and backed it up with double-blinded experiments which have been going on for more than 20 years. So anybody with an open mind reads that book when it comes out, probably next year, would be very foolish to ignore that kind of information. If they were at all serious, they would read more. They would study more. And that might lead them to, oh, then there's electromagnetic pollution on top of the fact that we're insulated from the earth. It's a double.
Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to be in an increasingly toxic world and then just insulate yourself, like be ungrounded and then just completely submerged swimming in the soup. At least ground yourself so you have an anchor. And then beyond that, instead of worrying about all the fear of this, unless you're in a position like politicians, which is, I'm not saying to ignore it, but I'm saying just average person, me, sitting here talking to you right now, what can I do to boost my own resilience? Because I will say, I truly believe how strong and how resilient the human body is, or we wouldn't even be here. So we're adaptable, number one, and we have an innate life force pouring through us that constantly renews us, and we're resilient. Because if we weren't, we'd all be like dead in infancy. So you can boost your resiliency, and you can make sure you take antioxidants. You can make sure you ground. You can make sure you sleep. You can make sure you move and get exercise and fresh air. And then you got to focus on, okay, I'm also going to start shielding. I think that would be the next step.
Well,
removing what you can remove. Reducing in your home. If you can get the gaming system out of your bedroom, awesome. If you can cover your router so the signal's decreased, awesome. If you can turn it off at night, even better. If you can get a shielding blanket on you, awesome. We can protect all. We have control over our own body, which has its own innate health. No one's giving me my health. No doctor I've ever seen or went to is what's making me healthy. I'm healthy. That's it. So now I can protect that. So that's what I would say for people who are really scared about, like, this just feels overwhelming and they just have a knot in their stomach. You are alive right now, which means you've got energy pouring through you, and the vast majority of things are working for you, or you wouldn't be alive right now. So if you're alive right now, you can protect it. So go from there.
How do you see the next year unfolding now that you have clearly become quote unquote the opposition to the powers that be in the earthing world? How do you see your upcoming year in terms of things that you might want to do to increase awareness, or to even protect your own interests better? I mean, you're always positive, but you've got to have a strategy here. This is, in a sense, it's a great struggle.
It is a struggle, but Ihan, I don't have a strategy because I don't want to be the opposition. I literally come at it from a collaborative medical healthcare mind frame of, hey, here's an idea, try this, offer this, let's do that. And then hopefully another company will say, oh my gosh, awesome. And we specialize in organic shielding stuff, and then we collaborate on that. And then maybe speaking, and maybe I don't want to be the opposition. I really don't. And I don't have a plan. I just want to say my truth, which is grounding is awesome. And if it doesn't make you feel awesome, instead of not grounding, ground safely with a filter in place. That's it. And then here's other things, because grounding isn't my only thing too. Like, I really believe in eating well. I really believe in minerals. I really believe in hydrating. You got to exercise. You have to. Got to move that body or it atrophies. So, like, there's just so much we can do to support wellness. I really, really, every time I get scared of, like, I'm going to get another legal letter, I'm going to get another thing saying, shut your walls. I'm just going to keep focusing on people need to know how to stay well in this world. And that's my message. That's it. I don't have a plan beyond that, except hopefully the book coming out, and maybe speaking on behalf of that once it comes out.
Okay, well, our guest today was Dr. Laura Conover, and she has brought us really up to speed on the leading edge of grounding and some of the associated challenges that it faces unless we get a bit smarter to this problem of hypersensitivity to the energies that are all around us unavoidably. So thank you very much, Laura. I hope we can do this again.
Yes, thank you so much.
I will, it will take time, but these interviews are going to be subtitled in Japanese so that people here, and a lot of people here are beginning to awaken to this problem. I think the electromagnetic smog here is much worse than it is in the United States because it's a much smaller land area. You have a lot more people and you have a lot more cell phones and gadgets than anywhere else on the planet.
Wow.
It's amazing that people can actually get up and go to work and be insulated.
Yeah.
The ones who are grounded are singing the praises of grounding.
Yes.
Some of them are going to wonder, why am I not getting those benefits? And now we know why.
Yeah, and also one last comment is that is a testimony to how like innately resilient human beings are, because it does surprise me, but it's also reassuring. Use that as reassurance. There are people living in the highest high-rise of New York City, pelted 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, eating nothing but Spam and Velveeta cheese, and they're fine, and they're going to live 100 years. So it's like we are really healthy, innately meant to be here and to expand, but like, for sure, let's not put blinders on. For sure, let's just nurture that. So yeah, but I agree with you. It always shocks me how healthy people actually are considering what this world's becoming. So I take it as a good thing. I take it as how resilient we are.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you. We'll talk again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye now.
Bye.
Welcome to Real Rover. I'm your roving host, John Craig. Real Rover へようこそ、クレイグ・ジョンでございます。Introducing you to people you would never have heard of if it wasn't for Real Rover. Here we go.